What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's edition of the Ergo Weekly Update. Today is March 13th, 2022. So I wanted to kick things off talking about some changes we've been making internally. The community has been asking for additional marketing access, so we have created a group of community members called the Sigmanauts that are actually going to take over the main Ergo platform org Twitter account. It's my hope that they use, that new access and audience to educate people in terms of what can you do with the Ergo blockchain. Ultimately, we are a programmable blockchain, proof of work, and I think that's a great medium to engage users, miners, people that are prospectively looking into the Ergo ecosystem to kind of use that as a force multiplier to where we get more engagement and involvement from the community. The Ergo Foundation, as an entity, our goal has always been to maintain the core protocol. Now, hopefully we create a broad tool set that gives the developers the flexibility that they need. And we also put out educational tools to help onboard new developers. Now, at some point, our community has gotten large enough that it's becoming hard to track everything, which is a wonderful thing. And so internally, we felt like it's good for us to step back a little bit and hand over additional power to the community to take over the messaging and engagement side of what they're actually doing with the core tools that we build. So I'm really excited to see that. I think we'll see more Twitter Spaces, more engagement from various projects. And I'm looking forward to see how that all rolls out. Now, obviously, we're going to have some projects that compete with each other. Competition is good. My recommendation is keep it classy. Build creative solutions and good tools versus, making it a pissing contest and trying to attack and tear each other down. That doesn't really help anybody. There's a lot of that already in the crypto space. I think it'd be good if we as an ecosystem could stay away from that. Hopefully, we can drive open source development, composable tools, and ultimately deliver things that provide value and end up protecting users rather than exploiting them. That's my hope. That's our goal. And I hope everybody tunes in and watches the change as it comes about. So let's hop into the roadmap to start. I'm going to start with Minotaur Wallet. It's a new wallet in the Ergo ecosystem. It's a multi-platform wallet, meaning we're going to see implementations on mobile devices and across multiple operating systems. One unique thing about this wallet is it is going to have integrated apps. I'm sure that that will expand. And I know there's a couple of competing products that are working towards integrating the stablecoin, the mixer, Ergo Dex even, inside of wallets. That's going to deliver a nice user experience. I'm really excited to see those come together. So if you're out there and you're looking to play with a new wallet in the Ergo ecosystem, check them out. The next thing we're working on is Dexy USD. Dexy is a stablecoin framework. Now, I imagine in the first iteration, the asset that will be used in that framework is going to be Ergo. But the neat thing about Age USD, which is the current stablecoin framework, and Dexy USD, is that they both allow for multiple assets to be used. So it doesn't just have to be an ERG-based stablecoin. It can be potentially any token that's on the Ergo blockchain. Now, if that's built out, it kind of creates a unique use case where you can have a stable portfolio, or at least a portion of your assets in stablecoins that are backed by a variety of different assets that are potentially redeemable. So that allows you to kind of play around with volatility in a unique way and hopefully create some hedging mechanism. Now, I'd be pretty curious to see how that works out. Once we get bridged assets onto the Ergo ecosystem, we may in time see multiple stablecoins using the same framework that are backed by different assets. So it kind of creates a distributed hedging mechanism. Let's see. I think that that's still in R&D. It's rolling out. There is additional documentation and kind of review that's going on. Hopefully that comes out this year. And when it does, it opens the door to having multiple iterations of it, which really develops into a unique use case, in my opinion. Excited to see how that works out. Next, we have the blockchain sync update that we're working on. Basically, what that does is allows you to sync a full node at high speeds. I know there are a couple of existing frameworks on other blockchains, mainly Ethereum Go, I believe, has a kind of a accelerated syncing mechanism. Well, we're building our own on top of Ergo, and I think that once that is out, it's certainly going to make full node wallets a lot more performant. That's one thing that right now I think our ecosystem is lacking on, is we do have the full node with a wallet on top of it, but I think there's a lot of room to grow in terms of building out a fully functional full node wallet that potentially has dApps built into it, potentially has even some ability to run infrastructure, such as batching bots or other software that's needed to support the ecosystem. I think that'd be great to see, and the more full nodes, the better. That just makes our network more secure. We also have an update that's coming along with the Oracle Pool framework. We're calling it Oracle V2. That's still in development. We're working on the Oracle Core at the moment. One thing you will find over the existing Oracle framework that's already running, it's already backing SigmaUSD, but it should have better incentives for operators. And I think that it certainly is a core foundation that needs to be really built out well in order to have functional DeFi on top of the Ergo network. So we do have cross-chain, potential with other platforms, other blockchains, and we do have a partner that's willing to work with us and is currently testing the commercial viability of Oracle V2 and has some interesting use cases in mind in terms of how hardened Oracle data can be used commercially. So that's something to watch in terms of our development. I would say that's a core tool that's still coming together, but as it rolls out, it opens up a lot of unique use cases. The next big update that the Ergo core team is working on is the Node 5.0 update. I've been talking about that for a long time, and some people have caught that. If you haven't, it's basically a improvement in the scripting engine to where Ergo, the blocks will actually process scripts faster and they will be more space efficient. And what's the end result of that? More throughput. You'll be able to run more smart contracts in a block than previously we were able to do. So that's going to be a nice performant upgrade. It's probably going to be rolled out after EIP 27. Those of you that don't know, EIP 27 has been a multi-month discussion and about changing the emissions via soft fork to extend the distribution of Ergo to the year 2045. Now, there's been some people that will say, oh, that's going to make a huge difference in terms of available supply and thus price. That really wasn't the intent. The difference is, I believe, 19%, which, I guess that's crypto on a good day, right? So I don't think that looking at it from a price perspective is really understanding the intent. The intent of it is to push out the period that has a natural incentive for miners as we build in other tools and frameworks that allow us to pay people to secure the network. It's my goal to make sure that Ergo has the profitability incentive that makes mining attractive. I think that storage rent is certainly going to be a big part of that. I think that as we get into side chains and potential launches, token launches to miners, we're going to see some interesting frameworks appear. But ultimately, that breaks down to the long-term economic security of the network. And, being proof of work, we need miners. Everybody kind of gives miners shit, probably due to Ethereum. Just, gas fees are great for miners, not great for users, and that's created a certain rift. But if you want to have any type of commercial adoption in proof of work, you need miners. You need that security that they offer. So I think that as we go through the soft fork, it's already been tested on testnet. I know Alex is currently working on the mainnet implementation. Then the community needs to get together and say, okay, well, we just reduced some of the supply that was going to miners. What can we do to build, the proper tools, the proper frameworks to incentivize mining? Because we're proof of work, we need them. I think we can create a nice synergy there. Have a lot of neat ideas in terms of governance. And I think that we also may see kind of light mining using distributed computing to run software scripts that support applications that have some sort of incentive built in. I think getting that right is going to be pretty important, just because it's needed in extended UTXO. So it's something that we need to start considering. Our next ErgoHack event, ErgoHack IV, is going to be about decentralization. How can we distribute the front ends, the back ends, the servers in our network, so that we are hardened, and through that, can become unstoppable. I would like to see, there's quite a few neat solutions out there that are, being put together by other projects. I think that rather than seeing them as competition, we should reach out and try to work together to really distribute the stack, across perhaps multiple other tools that exist to try to make our network more resilient. We're seeing a lot of censorship these days. We're seeing kind of a lot of centralized projects or projects that weren't quite as hardened as users would expect if they're looking at the first principles of cryptocurrency, being open and permissionless and secure and ultimately unstoppable. So that's our goal, to take the tooling that we already have, perhaps build some new ones, but distribute it in a way that makes Ergo as a network harder to stop. I think that's ultimately the goal of decentralization, is to become unstoppable. I think that as we move at least towards Web3 in theory, we need to start the discussion about, people hosting infrastructure locally and what that looks like, how that can be designed, developed, and made into a friendly user experience. But I think there's a lot of potential partners out there that really have, let's just say, a good understanding of what they're trying to build and are building things for the right reasons in the right way. So we should partner with those types of projects, especially if they can assist us in decentralization. Next, we're going to talk about SigmaJoin. Ergo is a project that supports privacy. Now, it is optional. It's not enforced by the protocol. A part of the reason why it was designed that way is because it interferes with some of the DeFi aspects that are possible. Meaning, if you're hiding, sender information or sender amounts, DeFi can get pretty tricky. Now, one thing about the current ZeroJoin and the upcoming SigmaJoin frameworks is they're very versatile and broad. Basically, any coin that bridges to the Ergo network gains the ability to become or act like a privacy coin. So we may see coins that currently do not have any on-chain privacy features. Well, they will on top of Ergo. That's part of the goal, is that any asset out there. SigmaJoin and ZeroJoin is essentially, it's like a calculator. You put in the number of ring signatures that you want to mix, the number of rounds, they call it, in ZeroJoin, the application anyway. And so let's say I want to go through 50 rounds of mixing. I sign 50 ring signatures with different participants holding the same asset, and it starts to obfuscate, let's say, who's owning what. That's a powerful thing. Now, one thing that's already been played with is you have the ability to interact with dApps through the mixer. You have the ability to buy NFTs through the mixer. And, one of the benefits of that is that you can participate in small purchases without doxing your entire holding. If you look at tracking blockchains, in terms of like visual tools, there's not a lot of privacy involved, especially if people came in from a centralized exchange that potentially has their user information. There's not a lot of privacy involved in terms of holding all of your funds in a wallet or UTXO and not having people be able to understand what you're worth, what you're holding. We've seen problems with that. It's not necessarily safe, especially given the state of the world. So privacy is important. It should be a normal thing. So I'm excited to see SigmaJoin coming out. I think that Scala Hub is currently working on a paper that'll be released. Those are always nice to read. Next, we have the Sigmaverse.io refresh. If you're new to the ecosystem, I would say that's a great starting point. It kind of gives a high-level overview / directory of everything that's being built on top of the Ergo network. We have wallets and dApps and NFT projects and all kinds of good stuff. So check that out, because ultimately I think that's a good place to answer the question, what does Ergo do? Now I get to talk about Ledger. So what's the latest with the Ledger team? Well, the latest that I heard was they got their families out of Ukraine. Unfortunately, there was max exodus of people coming out of Ukraine, and so that's created a lot of bottlenecking for infrastructure, for getting people housing, for services for those type of refugees. The Ledger team is still working on settling some of their families. I do believe they will be back at work this next week. But it's one of those things. You got to look out for your family, make sure they're settled well, and hopefully they can, rebuild. Maybe even we could do something for them as a community. We also have the website revamp that's still in process. I know the current website, ergoplatform.org, is a little bit outdated. It could use some better, let's say, engagement and content for new users, prospective people that are interested in learning more. So we're working on delivering a nice UI that I think will up the engagement and content that's currently in our old website. Everybody's always asking about exchange listings. We do have a couple that are in motion. I can't really speak much to where, but I can say that we are currently working with them to build and test the wallet. And that way, they feel safe. There's generally a lot of money that's moved on exchanges, and so security needs to be the number one priority. I'm sure that once we finish that testing, we'll get a listing date, and then at some point I'll get a date when I'll be able to actually say something more than soon. But for now, that's basically all I can say. We have couple of bridge frameworks. I know there's been discussion in terms of bridging to Harmony. I think that's a great idea. I know MHS is certainly on board with that. Hopefully as we progress, we will see that bridge come about. I think that's kind of in the discussion phase right now, but it's moving towards the engineering phase, which means that things get done. We also have the Rosen Bridge framework. That is a Ergo-specific bridge. I know that documentation is being worked on. I know that the team has basically tested it in terms of a couple different networks functionalities, and it looks like it's a viable concept. So we've created the framework, then they did kind of the engineering and concept testing, and now we're going to go through the implementation. It's great to see. I think that having multiple bridges is ultimately going to be where we end up. You may have bridges that are slower, that have different security assurances. You may have faster bridges that are more geared towards DeFi trading and arbitrage. I wouldn't say that at this point there's one unified bridge framework that is kind of the cure-all, fix-all greatest thing. Right now it's kind of a series of trade-offs. So I think that having a couple of different standards is a good place to be. We also do have the SUSI-1 bridge that's still in development. I don't have any update on that for this week anyway. So looking at our roadmap, we've got a lot to do, a lot to build. That's one of the nice things about Ergo, in my opinion, is that the end isn't really in sight. I think that as we continue to turn on core tools, features, we open up more and more potential on top of the network. And that's something that needs to come with documentation and hopefully open frameworks that are reusable. And as they're reusable, they get improved. That's our pathway to growth. There's a lot of focus in this industry on the price right now and improving the price right now, and that's understandable. But ultimately, as a technology, the goal is to evolve and become user-friendly for both the people that are participating in the network and new developers that are coming into the network to explore potentially creating something. Sometimes I think we forget that extended UTXO is still young, and ultimately that documentation, education, focus on educating users and improving the user experience is ultimately going to make everything that's built on top of Ergo stronger. And you may get a basic user that says, okay, well, what does this network do? Well, that's how you answer that question long term. So I hope we get there. I think there's been amazing development so far this year. I really look forward to the next ErgoHack and seeing what ideas the community comes out with. It's been a pleasure, guys. Have a good one.